Namaste, Akka.
Okay.
Welcome to our small initiative that we started called Once Upon a Time. We are from the Namaha Foundation for the Arts. And my name is Naina Shastri. I am the founder and director of this organization. I'm also the artistic director of Ushanjali School of Dance. And we thought we're at home now and everybody is having a hard time doing anything on Zoom. So as teachers, as students, I thought we should have something which will hopefully bring about an excitement to what we learn and what we teach. And so we thought we should, with senior gurus like yourself, travel to the past and hear your stories of your time when you were students and when you were learning this art form. So welcome and thank you for being supportive of our event. And we would like to have you actually do your introduction because we want to hear who Katherine Akka was when she was young and when she started learning dance and what made her pick up Indian classical dance. And we would like to hear from you your story.
Well, I thank you very much for including me in this set of programs you're creating. It's nice to socialize by Zoom. I actually do it a fair amount. I teach all my classes by Zoom and I meet with friends by Zoom as well. I'm Katherine Kunhiraman and I'm the director now of Kalanjali Dances of India, which I started with my husband in 1975. So we're now celebrating 45 years.
Wow.
And it's been a long journey, and my journey before that was also quite long. I grew up in the East Coast until the end of my teenage years, and my father was a very successful illustrator. So we didn't, because he could just pack up his art and send it to the agent. We didn't have to live near a city, which is. Right. Most people have to live near some urban center, but we didn't. So we lived in the winter and the school days on a farm in Pennsylvania with 100 acres to roam around and never see another soul. And wildlife and cows and everything. We had a dairy farm.
Wow.
As a hobby. And then in the summer we were in Massachusetts on a little island off Martha's Vineyard is an island off of the Cape Cod, and Chappaquiddick is yet a smaller island. It's very small. Okay. You can just about run across it. And so we lived there in the summer. And that was also surrounded by nature with the beach, and we had a boat, and it was a childhood that had absolutely nothing to do with India.
Yeah.
There was no hint of India at that point. And when I was in my junior year of high school, my parents had gotten divorced and remarried, and my stepfather was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania in urban design and architecture. And he was offered a job by the Ford Foundation to work in Calcutta on India's fourth five-year plan.
Okay.
And that was to reroute traffic around, because for people who know Calcutta, the Howrah Bridge went right from the Wall Street of Calcutta to Howrah on the other side. So right. That meant that not only was everybody in business coming into that downtown area, right. But also everybody who needed to get to Howrah also came there. So the plan was to have a circular road that would go around the whole city. In London, they have that, where you feed into the different neighborhoods from the circular roads and then off into the places you have to go.
That's right.
And then the proposal was eventually to build a second bridge, which they didn't do for a very long time, but they have it now. I've sailed under it. And looked up and said, "Yes, you're finally there." So this job that he'd been offered was supposed to be for 1 year, And so he let us all get out of school.
Oh,
And
okay.
I had just finished high school and started college, and I was at an art school in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And my sisters were 13, 10, and 6.
Wow, okay.
And my brother was already at Harvard, so they weren't going to let him drop out. So we all 4 girls went off with my mother
Uh-huh.
by boat
Uh-huh.
from New York to Gibraltar and Gibraltar to Bombay, and then we flew across to Calcutta.
Yeah.
And at the end of that first year, they asked him to stay on another year.
Huh.
And so this is what happened for 12 years.
Okay.
12 years, year by year by year by year. So I had been interested in Egyptology when I was a child.
Uh-huh.
And then at the age of 15, they had me sort of brainwashed out of that because it wasn't a practical job. They say about Egyptologists, you only get a job in the field when another one dies. Because there's not much demand for them. And so off we went to India. And by that time, before leaving in the last years of high school, I'd been very involved in theater.
Uh-huh.
Not that theater was a more practical career than
Profession either.
that's where my mind was.
Right.
And I always had graphic arts as a fallback,
Right.
as a career choice, because everybody in my family was a graphic artist.
Yeah.
So when I went to Calcutta, after maybe 6 weeks, I saw a performance of Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, and Odissi by one dancer, changing her costume for each one. By the time they read the program notes for one dance, she changed her costume.
Oh, it was the same performer who did
the
everything.
same performer. So I just saw how much theater was in that.
Right.
And I just said, I can do that. I'm going to do that. So I started taking lessons at a very small school in Calcutta. And then I later went to Rabindra Bharati University.
Right.
And then then my parents moved to Delhi. So that was 3 years was in Calcutta. And then I went to Kalakshetra. And I was there for almost 3 years. And then the Dhananjayans of Bharata Kalanjali had just left to make their own school. And I was already having a relationship with Kunhiraman. He said, well, why don't you just go and be with them? They're, they have lots of time. You can have class all day. So I went there and I lived with them and for that year and learned many more dances. I had 2 hours in the morning with one of them and 2 hours in the evening with the other one. So it was like 4 hours of dancing a day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that year, they asked me to do an Arangitram.
Oh, wow.
So I did an Arangitram and the rest is history. It's just, but then I continued for many years after that.
Right. So Akka, what was your feeling? Like it must have been, I don't, at that time of the decade, I don't think there were many white American or European artists who were performing Indian classical dance. Was there any, how was the attitude or how?
Well, one very famous dancer was Indrani Rahman.
Oh, yes.
She was half American. And her mother had been one of the pioneers in the 40s.
Correct.
To learn this dance. And she learned Kathakali and I don't know what else, but she learned a lot and she learned it very well. And then Indrani learned it and became, so by the time I was living in India, Indrani was already a famous dancer.
Okay.
And not, there have been people, but it was not like now where it's there's almost no distinction.
Correct.
It was a novelty.
Correct. Yeah.
People were attracted to the novelty of it.
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
and the theater background, I also had an advantage. I had never learned dance at all before I did this.
So no ballet.
No ballet. I had not even seen ballet.
Oh, wow.
The only 2 dance performances I had seen before I went to India were both African dance.
Okay.
So just coincidence.
Right. Yeah.
So it was theater that attracted me.
The acting and the storytelling aspect.
Yes. And then the other thing about it that I really was attracted to was the religion, the antiquity, the details. I was always a very detailed person. I used to write in hieroglyphs and
Oh,
I drew very detailed drawings. And so the details and the structure and the refinement of the rhythms and the geometry and the body, all those things, plus the acting,
yeah.
very much attracted me.
Right. So, so is that how you also took up Kathakali as well? Because you have learned Kathakali too, or is
Yes.
that part of the?
I actually, you won't believe, I started with Kathak.
Oh, Kathak. Okay, because we're in the north, right?
First learned Kathak because I was in Calcutta.
Correct.
That was what they were teaching in the little school near my house.
Correct.
And so I learned Kathak for 8 months or so. And I switched to, well, I went at Rabindra Bharati, they taught Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Kathakali, Manipuri, and Bengali folk dance. No,
okay.
No. Later on, after I was already married, and then I learned Odissi a little bit.
Okay, so that must have been an exciting time. So, what was the first when you first started learning Bharatanatyam? Was there anything that you found difficult, or that you really had to kind of make an extra effort?
The first lesson in Kathak, I had to go like this with my right hand and do something with my left leg. And I thought, I'm never going to get this. This is never going to work out. But then after just a little bit of working on it, it worked out. And I was, they have in Kathak, well, in Bharatanatyam also, but in Kathak, they have these bowls for the patterns you dance. And I was able to pick up those bowls really fast.
Oh, okay.
I have a knack for picking up music. So I was also learning Tagore dance. And by the time the teacher went around the room and sang the song and I followed her, I would pick the song also.
Okay.
So I'm just lucky God has given me that gift.
Yes, you have been.
But I think that moving at speeds was a problem. And the other thing was, before I went to Kalakshetra, they would just teach all the adavas, all the basic steps, starting with 1 up to 50. And then for the exam, they'll say, okay, do number 32. Oh, maybe I knew the step, maybe I could do the step, but I didn't know which step.
What 32 was.
So I had to develop a way of writing them in pictures. And that was really, really helpful to me because I wrote out all the steps in pictures and put the numbers on them. So I'd remember the picture with the number next to it. And then I could get it. And then later on, when I started learning dances, I wrote them all out in pictures.
Pictures. So what about language, Akka? What was, because a lot of that acting comes from also understanding.
The school was, most of the classes were taught in Bengali. Wow. So I had to learn some Bengali.
Nice.
And that's the only Indian language that I use tenses in. Everything else is me, Tarzan, you, Jane.
And then of course with Bharatanatyam came a lot of Tamil.
And I had to learn the songs. So they sit you down first and they give you the sahitya for everything. And you have to sing it and you have to put tala to it.
Correct.
And you have to understand each word.
Correct.
And the words, will be in a different order than in English. So you have to write out each word literally and the general meaning of it.
Right.
And of course, when you develop the line with your abhinaya, you have to understand all those, what all those things. It's quite a bit.
So how was it when, in terms of the teaching, because today everybody wants, the first thing they will ask is, will you take a video of the steps? So, and at that time, you never had any such guides.
Do I have something here I'm just looking in my desk to see if I have a picture of. Well, this is just some indication of how the system works, drawing the pictures. This is just notes I took while someone was dancing on Zoom, so that I could tell them the corrections without interrupting them. So
Okay.
So I have to write fast and then know which girl was doing which mistake.
Yes, this is an interesting time too. Not only the in person, but we have to also adapt to the virtual scene as well. So, what was your experience when you first started? When you moved back to the US and you started the school here, what is your early experience at that time starting the school?
I came and I put posters up within a few days.
Uh-huh.
And I had never been to California before. This was a completely new place for me. What we did was whenever we met Americans, we would interview them about what would be the best place to have Indian dance classes, because there was not really any Indian community at that time.
Correct. Yeah.
It was this was 1975, so it was a different scene altogether.
Correct.
So we had narrowed it down to Berkeley, California, or Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
The problem with my computer.
Oh, no, you're fine, I think.
No, it was my mail popped up.
Oh,
Here it comes again, damn it. So Cambridge, Massachusetts was going to be a problem because my sister lived there and her heating bill was $600 a month. This was 45 years ago. So we decided on Berkeley. So I came first with my daughter, who was then almost 4, and moved to Berkeley and stayed with a friend for a few weeks until I found a place. And luckily, she was a modern dancer who had access to a theater where she could teach her classes. And she didn't want to continue that. So she gave me the key and the guy said, it's okay. And I had a whole theater to teach in.
Nice.
So I had a few Americans who came and I made them come 3 times a week and an hour and a half class. And they learned, they were already involved in theater.
In some kind of,
So, you know, anthropology or theater, and that's what you needed to as the background.
Correct. To start the. And
so it started from there, and then it was mostly Americans up until 1980.
Oh, okay.
So 5 years, no Indians.
No Indians, yeah. And they were completely receptive of the art form, and
well, there weren't very many of them. There were, you know, but they were very interested.
Yeah. And you kept visiting India every year, or how did that?
At that point, we couldn't. You know, we were living on what we were making from this. There was no other income for us.
Okay.
So Kunhiraman went back in 1977 and did all his old roles in Kalakshetra, taking part in the festival. And then we went in 1980.
Okay.
And then after that, we went in 1986, and from 1986 onward, every year.
Okay.
Every year.
Every year.
So when I was filling out his citizenship application, they ask you where to name all the places since you got your green card, how many times have you gone abroad? And it was like the same thing. November 23rd, leave for India. January 26th, come back. You know, it's like every year.
But it's even then for that time, going to India going anywhere or like that, traveling like that was a long, even, not a very commonly done activity, right? So
I don't know, we knew people who went, you know, all our American friends were involved in India.
Okay.
So it seemed like everybody was clamoring to go to India.
Okay. So you have seen the scene changing then year by year in India and year by year here.
Yes, very much.
So what is your what would you say? What have you seen changing the most? And
when just before we came back to America, there was a surge in interest in dance in this country.
Okay.
And there was actually it was a very high period for earning, and those colleges had a lot of money, and a lot of the colleges actually introduced dance courses that included Indian dance. and then that all fell apart. By
Yeah.
the time I came back in 1969, it was already fallen apart. And
Yeah.
gone back again and stayed for till 1975, and then it was really, really down. I mean, the economy was just in a different position, and colleges couldn't do that anymore.
So this was in the US.
This was in the U.S.
US.
So there was already an interest.
Correct. But
Um,
then they couldn't take it further and kind of consolidate.
it kind of fizzled out.
But then, and now they haven't picked it back up. I mean, with so many.
No, but there's so much. There's such a huge Indian population now,
Uh-huh.
and that sustains it. I don't feel that Bharatanatyam is neglected at all. It's,
Correct, correct. But
it's
do you
not
think
in
it should-
danger or anything like that. But when we first came,
Uh-huh.
most people had never heard of it.
Correct, yeah. But do you still think that that some universities or maybe community colleges should offer something to do with the Bharatanatyam or Indian language?
I think it's important to have many kinds of foreign things, because people in America, most people don't have passports. I just heard today discussing the same subject. Only 15% of Americans have passports.
Passports, yeah.
And that means that the rest of the population have no physical contact with the outside world. So that's why they're all bothered about people speaking Spanish in line and lining up to buy their groceries. It's completely ridiculous. But even in India, people, I think, are more knowledgeable about the world in general than people are here, because they're so isolated here.
Correct, yeah. And I think even maybe, I don't know, even in school, early school system, they're not exposed to a lot of the other cultures.
No, they're not. And the teachers don't know anything, so how can they teach? We used to do a lot through the various arts councils, California Arts Council, Santa Cruz Arts Council, in Fremont, there was an organization that used to bring us to do lecture demonstrations in the schools. And we would do, it was really fun. We did about 40 schools a year. And we would do a dance performance, for the younger ones, then another one for the older ones, upgrading the intellectual level a little bit for the older ones.
Correct.
It was, like kindergarten through third grade and then fourth through sixth grade.
Right.
And then the next day we would come into the classroom and we would bring costumes, Indian clothes, not dance costumes, but just clothes.
Just traditional clothes.
Yeah, traditional clothes, a sari to dress up the teacher and
Right.
wrap her up like a mummy.
Yeah.
And then I took newspapers in different languages, and I had put them between plastics so that they could be handled and pass them around. Indian money, Indian money,
Right.
language, religion, spices. We'd pass around spices for them to smell, and several other things, and it was a geography lesson. It was not a dance one, but having performed for them, we were kind of celebrity status to them as performers. So they were ready to,
Yeah, you're like this child.
And then having Kunhiraman there when he did the Kadagali gestures of lion and tiger and things, they were just completely thrilled.
Correct. So I wonder why today, I know a lot of schools that they do have all these multicultural events and things like that, but still somehow it doesn't seem like it's integrating anything into their system. It seems like everybody is just fighting for their own spots in each of these multicultural booths, and there's no understanding happening there. What do you think, maybe? Is it just too much for everybody?
I really don't know, but I think so much more pressure has come on people about just the sort of the basic math and reading,
Okay.
And even that doesn't get very far, but I don't know. Maybe this is not a good time to ask me about America. Rare.
Yes, we will let it rest for a while. So, Aka, so you've had Arangetrams here in the US. So when was the first time that you had, And how was it the first time?
The first one was 1986,
Uh-huh.
and the dancer was almost 15,
Uh-huh.
and her mother was a musician.
Okay.
So we had local musicians,
Mhm.
and that was hard because now you have, you know, incredible musicians here,
Yes.
incredible,
Yes. Yes.
and we didn't have that then. So it was like, you know, a
Yeah.
housewife or a scientist or someone who's, you know, can come in and learn the songs and manage somehow.
Correct.
And then I would do the Nadungam,
Huh.
and I would, you know, sing as the backup singer, not the main singer.
Right. Right. And you did it in a theater or?
In a theater, yeah. Basically the same what we have now,
Uh-huh.
except that they didn't give dinner.
Okay.
And I went to the first performance where
Uh-huh.
they gave dinner. And you know, we were coming out of the theater, and the dad is saying, wait, we have food. And he took out these big styrofoam clamshells and gave each person one. And I just looked at Kunhiraman and I said, this is the beginning of the end. Now it's like nobody will be able to get away with this. You know?
Exactly.
And so after that, a couple more years of just, you know, some small,
Uh-huh.
we used to just give a sweet and a
Uh-huh.
or something
Right.
like that. And then it morphed into dinner.
Yes.
And now it's like I don't think people would even come if they
Yes.
were
I don't know.
warned
If
in
there was-
advance that there was no dinner.
Yes, that's true. And there has to be a snack in the break time. And
Oh no, well, we don't allow snack in the breakdown.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
No, I say no, you give them water, and because they might be thirsty. But
Correct.
sometimes I've been told that they serve snacks and I'm backstage changing the kids. So I don't even know about it. And then my assistant said, well, it's not like she's going to come out there and throw the tables over, but it's better not to have snacks because it keeps people out of the theater longer. And then they try to bring the food into the auditorium, which is completely forbidden.
Right.
And then it kind of breaks the mood. You have to get people into a mood with a performance, and then you have to sustain that after a break. So the break is really just to go to the bathroom, walk around a little bit, and maybe drink water if they're desperate.
So how do you think the audience attitude has been? Has it changed? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? What is your perception on that?
I think a lot of people come out of a social obligation, not because they really love dance. I mean, how much can they? It's a kid, you know. It's not always great dance, and it's more. I mean, for me, I've had to alter my philosophy a little bit about this because when we first came, we just really wanted to create dancers. I mean, that's what Kalakshatra was. If you weren't good, you never got on stage. That was it.
Okay.
And here, you know, this is an immigrant community. It's a community that struggles just to keep anything of culture alive in their lives, in their homes. And this Bharatanatyam classes and performances and Arangitrams is an extension of that quest.
Yes.
So if they don't have Arangitrams, the Arangitram gives a focus for people to come together and to be culturally supportive of each other. And that is very important. And that's much more important than the quality of the dance should be good enough so that people can stand to watch it.
Right.
But the coming together and the mutual support is
also
as important.
Correct. That's true. So so going back again to, so how did you have to change anything? Like you learned in a certain way in Kalakshetra. So once you came here, did you have to modify your teaching methodology in any way?
A little bit. When we were in Kalakshetra, you had to learn all the adavas, and then only after learning all the adavas, whether it took 2 or 3, and we had class every day.
Right, right.
And in the beginning, there was no measure of it's 5 or 10 years or whatever.
Correct.
So by the time I got there, it was a 5-year course, but I had a special foreigners course because I thought I was only going to be there 1 year, and I was actually there for the 2 years and then came for a third, but that was because of this, my
Yeah.
father's work getting extended every year.
Right.
But I don't, so the length of your study was just an open thing.
Okay.
There was going to be no end. There was no end. An orangutram was not the end. If you did an orangutram, that was just a new taking off point.
Correct.
So when we started teaching here, I taught as much of the Adavis as I could, say in a year. And then after a certain point, I would try to include maybe in advance of where they came in the order of things, the steps that came in Alarepu. And then so by the middle of the second year, maybe I could start pushing Alarepu, but not always. Sometimes they had to go for 2 full years of Adavis before they could get there.
Correct.
And some people learn faster than others. So but I have to have some, with 6 people in a class, I have to keep, some regular routine that works for everybody.
Correct.
So then after they've learned Alarepu, then Jatiswaram is next. So that means a whole bunch more steps they have to learn, and then do Jatiswaram, and then they learn some more, and then we teach them Shabdam, and then they get to act a little bit, and we see what happens with that, because some people have a stronger talent for one or the other.
Correct.
And so that's the way we've had to balance it out. So because this is a land where the losing team also gets trophies.
Yes.
So there has to be some carrot hanging up there
for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that changed in any way now in recent times, or you still have to do the similar kind of?
No, it works. It works. I think it's perfectly all right.
Okay.
I mean, it's not about torturing people.
Yes. Yeah. You want them to enjoy
it's about inspiring them.
Correct. Yeah.
And so I don't want to, I don't want to make it an unpleasant experience. At the bottom of my goal, the bottom line is I want them to love the art. I want them to value their culture so that they understand its antiquity, how scientific it is, how detailed and beautiful and classical it is.
Correct.
If they understand that, and they don't quite get the dance, but they get that.
Right.
That's the most important lesson out of it.
And what
they should value it.
Correct. Yeah.
They should never feel, like, I don't know. Did you go to school here when you were?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay.
No.
Well, the kids will say, "Why do you have long hair? That's so gross. Why don't you cut your hair? Why don't you wear bangs? All kinds of." My daughter went through all this. So why don't you wear bangs? Why do you have your hair parted in the middle? And why? Why not?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I want them to have courage. We spend some time in the day on fighting the tide that goes against us.
Right. And especially, I found that especially when we talk about mythology, I think the children today are a little bit more obviously vocal than we were. So when we were learning dance, we had to kind of just listen to what our teacher said, and we didn't have the opportunity to kind of say, cross question the whole thing. But today, I feel the students are a lot more open and vocal about these things.
Yes.
Right? So how do you deal with that? Because they're questioning all these old mythology, and and sometimes I feel it's fair.
Well, I give some sort of anthropological explanation for some of it. And what it symbolizes, because a lot of these things, in fact, really all of them, you can say, are metaphors for some philosophic point.
Correct.
So I explained that.
And they're
And, I explain it on their level because some of them are like, they're 8 years old and learning Shabdam, and I have to explain why is Krishna stealing,
yes, that is that's always a sticky point there. Even when you talk about why Krishna is stealing their clothes, and like, oh, gross. I've had all kinds of comments. Yeah, as you said.
I think that's pretty easy to explain,
Right.
And I know that when we used to do these school performances, the teachers would write reports on us to the Arts Council, and we also would report on the school to the Arts Council, and then they would share them back and forth. So one time a teacher had written that she thought it was too philosophic for young children.
Okay.
And the Arts Council said, well, what do you think of this comment? And I said, when you water a garden, some of the water runs off and some of it soaks in, and I'm fine with that.
That's true.
I've always been a person who stuck to my guns.
Right. Sometimes that's also important, especially when you're dealing with traditional arts like this, because it comes with so much of its own history. That it's easy to get diluted if you don't stick to it.
And I'm just not going to water things down and dumb them down.
Yeah.
I think that's a grave error and a disservice to the children.
Sure. So thank you. Do you want to take a little? I'll have one of my students come on, and they want to ask as well. So can I have Ria come on and ask her question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hi, Auntie.
Hi.
So my question was, what advice do you have for young students who want to take up this art form?
I'm an intense person, so I think that people should always be intense about things they take up. I think that by giving everything you do your best shot, that's how you get stuff back. And I think that if you take up dance, you should be prepared to work towards a really beautiful ideal. And then you have the satisfaction that you have something in your hand.
Yeah.
You should own it.
That was a thought-provoking answer. Thank you. So
do you have any other questions?
Yes. And I hope that Ria follows and everybody else follows that, what Katherine Auntie told you. So yeah. I would like to now invite Sindhuri. She had one question too.
Is she also your daughter?
No, actually, Sindhuri is my senior student. And, she just finished her Arangetram this past year.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations. Good thing you finished it. Otherwise, you'd be delaying it till next year. All my Arangetrams are delayed now till next year.
This year has been a washout. So yes, I think she's definitely thanking her stars. She finished it.
Yes. Namaste, Auntie. So my question was, what has and or has not changed in your school in terms of learning?
My school is bigger, so there's more communal support. And in the places where the students know each other and the parents know each other, it's just that much stronger. For instance, I teach in Sacramento and I teach in Lafayette. Those are the two main places I teach. And the Lafayette families are quite diverse, and they don't necessarily know each other. So it's kind of a little loose. It's like the students come in, they don't know each other, and they never see each other outside of class. The parents aren't hanging around. It doesn't have a sense of community. But the Sacramento people, because the Indian community is smaller in Sacramento, although it's grown tremendously, and now there's like 15 or 20 dance teachers there. Oh, it's almost like the South Bay with your 85 schools or something like that. But there's a sense of community. So the parents back up everything. And the parents are often in the class actually dancing with their kids.
Oh, okay.
So that's really nice. But one other thing I forgot to mention before is that those kids who did Arangitrams early on, like in the 80s, their children are now coming into our classes.
Oh, wow.
It's so wonderful. It's like, you're 11 years old. Oh my God.
So you see the generation.
So now we're in the second generation.
Right. So how is that? So between the mother and or the parent and the child, what is the difference or not so much that you see?
I think some of the children don't want their parents to do it.
Oh, okay.
Some of them are just really adamant that they don't want their parents to do it.
Do it.
Others are much encouraged by it, and they practice together, they perform together. I have several families where the mother is dancing and 2 kids. And yeah, it's great.
That's nice. Yeah, that must be a lot of fun for you also to see the progression and the.
It is fun. It's really, really sweet. I like it so much.
So what about the current generation? Like, do a lot of them continue after their Arangetram? Do they?
Some of them do.
Do they?
Mostly they get swallowed up by college.
Yes.
That's the reality.
Reality, that's true.
But some of them keep, if they go away to college, they may join a dance club there. They have Bharatanatyam clubs in colleges. I don't know, Sindhuri, are you off to college now? Or are you still?
I'm actually a rising junior, so I got a little bit of time. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both. Yeah.
So so they go off to college sometimes, anywhere, some far-flung part of the United States, and then they join a dance club there. And if they don't have a Bharatanatyam club, they join a Bhangra group or a Ras and Garba group. So there are lots of things to do, and this Arangitram is a good boosting pad.
Yeah. Do you see a change once they finish their Arangetram in the way they present themselves and dance in general?
Oh, yes, because the preparation in the last year is very intense. They come many times instead of 1 hour once a week.
Right.
They come, 3 times a week, and for more than, it gets longer and longer classes as it gets closer. And then the rehearsals are intense. We bring musicians from India so that we have them with us to have rehearsal whenever we need it. We don't have to depend on their schedules of local people.
Right.
And then the kids come and they have to come. And we have my niece, Kunhiraman's niece, KP Yashoda, she comes in the summer and helps them to rehearse. And sometimes they go in the winter before the Arangitram. They go and they stay there, especially if they have relatives or some contact, some continuity with Chennai. And then they stay for 3 weeks. The Christmas break plus 1 week off from school.
Cool.
And then they have 3 weeks of every day, sometimes twice a day.
Wow.
And it's really great because then in the night they can go to see performances, and that's really important. In the South Bay, you have a lot of performances all the time that the kids can go to. But up here, there just aren't any performances.
But do the kids do?
They won't go. They won't go and look at them. It's,
I mean, even in the South Bay, I've seen that there's a lot of kids. Parents, I don't think, do they go? I mean,
they don't go.
That's always a issue, isn't it, to get the crowd?
Well, it makes me feel like kicking them out. because even we give them links to videos that they should see. And unless we just sort of hold their noses onto it, they won't. They won't,
yeah.
So this is just like you've got a kid comes into class at 9 o'clock in the morning. Auntie, I'm so tired. I said, why are you so tired already? We don't even start dancing. No, I just played soccer for an hour and we won the game. So after dance class, I have to play another game. And if we win that, I have to play another game. So that kid is going to end up at lunchtime with 4 hours of intense physical activity.
I know.
So they're so crowded. It's like, oh, I have to go. I have to do namaskaram. I have to go because now I have something else.
Yeah, finish. When is the time going to end? When is class going to end? I have to go.
When isn't class over yet? And, you know, well, you know, 5 more minutes to stay for. No, I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's a little weird.
that's true. Okay. So we're coming to the end of our chat today. It was wonderful. But I do want to ask you, do you remember any special experience that you had in India? Some nice story that you want to share, India or here, anything that comes
Once
to you?
I was doing a performance and my teacher was in the audience and I think it was for USIS. And a person leaned over to my teacher and said, is she Indian or American? I forgot my glasses.
Okay.
That was one interesting experience. But I had a lot of great experiences. You know, I went on tour and I danced in different places, and that was interesting because each time if I went to a new language area, I would try to learn a dance just for that. Like when I went to Bangalore, and so I learned Krishnani Begane just for that, you know. And then of course in Kerala, I always had some Kathakali to throw in. but it's really nice to try to make something that's special for the audience, you know.
Right. Yeah. That
if it's outside of their reach. It's and I always found that Indians were very supportive of my Indianness.
Correct.
I remember one time we went to meet Rukmini Devi at the airport when she was returning from Europe, and a new American student had joined, and she said, "You stay with Katherine, she'll teach you how to be a real Indian." And you know, that stays with me forever.
Yes, that's true. I never asked, so how did you and Kunhiraman sir meet?
He was my Kathakali teacher.
Oh, okay. But you didn't. You did not teach too much of Kathakali here.
You know, people don't want to learn Kathakali because it's a group dance. It's dance drama. Correct. So you have to learn a lot of it before you can do anything with it. And for dancers, it's too much theater, and for theater people, it's too much dance. And we just never people were never interested.
That's really interesting.
I mean, few people. I have one person begging me to teach her a piece which I did 30 years ago, and I'm wondering, like, how am I going to pull that out?
We did have the honor of witnessing your student perform for our Naipunya festival. If you remember, first year, we got her to perform a Kathakali piece, Strivesham. So that was really something because
now she's the one who wants to learn one more.
I'm glad she was
very patient.
It would be nice, like someday you could have like a workshop for us local, because there's a lot of facial movements and facial expressions, and you know, as you said, the theater aspect of Kathakali is very different.
You know, the theater aspect of Bharatanatyam is also very much neglected by people here. I think, you know, even to make their heads go back and forth, they feel shy because nobody does that. And it's weird. Oh, you're weird. So I think watching even, you know, sitcoms where the people are doing overacting, people should watch that and try to imitate that, and they have to liberate themselves. That's the main thing. It's very hard to let go. Because I had theater, I didn't have a problem with it.
Correct.
So it's hard for me to pull that out of them because I didn't have a problem.
Correct. Yeah, Abhinaya is always difficult, right?
And Abhinaya is, you know, like anyone can learn with enough drilling to be some kind of dancer, but to have the theater in it, it takes more than just being taught. It has to come out from
within. Yeah.
And I think it's very hard for people to let go of themselves and project like that. But it's very important. This is I would say acting is more than 50% of the importance of dance, of Indian dance. And if you don't have an expressive face, you're not going to get very far.
And like all of my girls always say, Auntie, we will show it, we will do the expression on stage.
Yeah, no, that doesn't cut it. No,
Right?
I won't believe in you until I see you do it in class.
That is what we all try to tell them, that I need to see that you're doing the right expression and portraying the right character. But
yeah, no, when I'm teaching the kids, I say, well, look up, oh, there's Krishna sitting in the tree. He's so cute. And they say, ew, cooties. And then I said, well, just then if Krishna doesn't work, it's just a nice fluffy puppy or the cutest stuffed animal you ever saw.
yeah.
And they, everybody has to, when you do theater, you have to make some part of you accessible to bring that out.
Correct.
And that's the secret of it. And I just don't, there's a lot of dancers out there nowadays who are dancing and not much expression. And they've become scholars and anthropologists as they know which Naika it is, and they know which thing it is, and who composed it, and which of the Tantra quartet wrote the music, and all that. They know all that, but then I want to see something come out that moves me. The cat, that's what rasa is that communication between the dancer and the audience.
Yeah, so the theory is there, but not so much the practical.
Yeah. And I remember how that was gradually happening before I left India. I left India in 1975 to start the school here. But I could see even in the last few years before I came here that people were moving towards that anthropology aspect of it. And whereas, in the old days, people just danced.
Yeah.
Nobody explained anything to them. They did it, and it was part of their whole person
approach to the whole.
It was not something that they had to intellectualize. They just did it because it was in them.
Okay. What do you think prompted that to move away from that kind of?
I think so many more people dancing. And trying to find their niche and trying to make something like, look at me, I know this. I brought an archaeologist along with me, and we're going to do this this jati that was carved on a stone from 900 years ago, and it's sometimes it's fake and sometimes it has something in it, and it's all very interesting. Of course, I'm very interested in that too. But when I see a performance, I want to see the performance.
Okay.
I'm not interested in
the theory behind it.
No, I just want to see it well done with genuine expression and feeling.
That's interesting. So I think we learned so much today, Akka, and thank you so much. It was such an open, candid conversation. We are so glad that you were on here, and I hope, as you said, I keep asking all my students to sign up, but I don't know how many of them are watching it. I'm hoping at least some of them will, but we will have
recorded it so you can.
Yes. So that's the modern technology for you.
Yeah, we're going to have a quiz. And then only they'll look at it.
So next I will have to say, okay, what questions did I ask Katherine Akka, and what were the answers? So you have to make sure you watch it.
And then give trophies.
Yes, trophies are a must. Thank you, Akka, so much for coming here. And
thank you so much for inviting me. And wish you all the best. And wish you guys all the best too. Keep dancing.
Yes.
Give it your best shot.
So there, my Sinduri does all these. She's the one who does all these technical aspect of this whole thing. So she's the one who keeps telling me, Auntie, you have to turn on your screen, or you have to share your
And
screen.
I forgot to turn on the light in my room, so I'm glad
Oh.
there's enough light coming from this
Yes, yes,
to
you're
illuminate me. Otherwise,
oh yeah.
you would have seen all my
Yeah.
books in the back.
So yeah, so Sinduri is our tech, and
Good.
she's also very interested in dance. And her, if her mother can join in as well, Nalini Kalvacharla, she is also an avid follower, patron of art, and she helps me with all the translations and
Good.
also with all the technical aspects. And is she on here yet? Probably not. She's been following on Facebook, so we have been streaming this live on Facebook. So I think she said that she'll log out and watch the show.
Well, I think some of my students had said they were going to watch, but I don't know if they made it.
Oh, okay. But as I said, it will be.
Because I only sent it out yesterday. I didn't get it from you until the day before yesterday in the night. So.
Oh yes, yeah, that's my mistake.
So.
But it will be there on the Facebook page. You know, there she is. There's Nalini. So Sundari, if you can turn on your mic. So yeah, and Ria is also an aspiring and young, interested. She's very she's also pretty good with her practice, and so far she's been diligent about learning it, and I hope that they continue to do so, as you said, even after they go off to college. So but I have them for another couple of years.
Yeah,
so
well, now that you know this Zoom thing,
yeah, exactly,
it doesn't matter how far away you are. You won't believe, before March 13th I had never heard of Zoom.
Yes.
So,
what did you
I've been in my house since then doing Zoom.
What did you think of that, Akka? Because I've never been a great believer of this whole online thing, but now I've been forced to do it. So what do you think? What is your take on this whole Zoom thing?
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's not the same.
Correct. Whatever it is, the in-person, face-to-face learning is definitely.
And for the kids also, when they're in a classroom, and there's a saying, you learn 25% from your guru. Mm-hmm. And you learn 25% from your classmates and your interaction with them, 25% from your own hard work. Mm-hmm. And the last 25% only comes with the passage of time.
Mm. And observation too, right? As you said, looking at your other.
Yeah, looking at each other, and copying and seeing, if you see in a performance someone's elbow suddenly goes down and you think, oh God, that looks so bad. I never let my elbow come down.
Yes, that's always a problem. Elbow up, elbow up. So yeah, I know.
Try.
I hope we can all get back to our in-person classes soon.
Yeah, well, this will hold it together. It's just nobody should leave it, thinking, well, I'll wait until it's face to face, because you lose things so quickly, and the control over parts of your body and your energy level and your involvement. So you just keep doing this, because this is all you have. So just keep doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And hope for the best. And thanks so much.
And 1 minute, Akka. So we would like to take a picture. Yes. So our technical lead is
do that. Okay. You don't have to do that.
Yeah. She does a
I'm going to take a screenshot. Yes. Okay.
You know how to do all these things.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody smiles. So 3,
smiling.
2, 1. Okay. I got 2.
Got it.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. And hope to see you again sometime for some other occasion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
And all the best to your school. 45 years of Kalanjali. It's an amazing. Yeah. We had Maithili Akka last time. They're celebrating 40 years, and then we have you now. So it's really amazing to see senior gurus of the area coming here and talking to us about their time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Akka. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. That was Katherine, Srimati Katherine Kunhiraman, Artistic Director of Kalanjali Dances of India. Next month, we will have Charlotte Moraga, Senior Disciple of Sri Chitresh Das from the Chandam School Dance, Kathak School. So please do tune in. We would like to talk with her about her time with Chitresh Da and her experiences learning Kathak. Once again, this is Naina Shastri, Director of Namaha Foundation for the Arts, signing off. We have our Naipunya Dance Festival also coming up in July, the second Saturday of July. Please tune in. It's again here on our Facebook page, and it will be streamed live on Facebook. So we will see you then. Goodbye and good night. Thank you, Sinduri and Nalini and Ria, for being with us today on the screen.